to episode 11 of Floating Through Film. This week we continue our series on Charlie Chaplin. But before we get started on that, let me introduce the other hosts here, Luke.
What's up?
And Blake.
What's up?
And this week we're continuing our Chaplin series with two more of his classic movies. I mean, he has so many, so... I mean, basically, most of his features would, in a certain film community, would probably be considered Chaplin classics.
Yeah.
But these two especially, maybe his two most popular in some circles, Modern Times and The Great Dictator. And like last week, we'll just go straight into the movies again, starting with The Great Dictator, released in 1936.
We're starting Modern Times, aren't we?
Oh yeah, so Modern Times.
Yeah, Modern Times.
Modern Times released in 1936. I just confused myself. Yeah. But this would be the Tramp's last, the Tramp's last movie, basically, and Chaplin's first movie with dialogue in it as well. So.
Yeah, if you don't count like all those things he added post.
And
all of the silent stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean dialogue, like actual words spoken.
Yeah.
Because I don't think City Lights doesn't have any.
No,
it's like all the it's the muffled soundtrack,
Yeah.
but really that's it.
Yeah.
But this one, okay, before we get into that, let me ask you guys, what is your overall impressions of Modern Times? What do you guys think? Blake, we'll start with you.
So I'd seen it once before I actually like silent movies, just because I thought I had to watch it because it's a classic, one that everyone has to watch, and so I did, and I really liked it. I didn't love it, but watching it this time, I actually love it a lot. There's so many little things that Chaplin does in this. I was telling Dave before the podcast started that my notes on this one are so long compared to even the Great Dictator even. And there's just so many little things that Chaplin does in this movie that I like a lot, that I noticed more on the second time going through, I guess. And this time I'm more in tune with I've been watching silent movies more than I had whenever I first watched Modern Times, because I think I watched Modern Times 2018, a year or two after I started watching movies. And now I actually watch silent movies, and so I actually get them more. So yeah, more in the flow we've been talking about through this thing.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, I just really loved it this time. We'll get more into it, obviously, but...
What about you, Luke? First impressions?
I also watched it once before, and honestly, I thought it was decent. I didn't really appreciate it. I appreciated it. I just didn't love it personally as much, but upon rewatch, I definitely did love it this time. Really, I just love the way his commentary. It's just great social commentary on on modern society and industrialization, as well as being hilarious, which is just what Chaplin, he just does his thing, and I think I love how he sets the tone of that, in the first shot, he shows the shot of the sheep going, and then immediately cuts to the workers going to the factory, you know. So it's
so simple.
Yeah, he gets
the point across just with those two
pretty
shots.
Pretty much, I loved it a lot more this time, and the way he whole way through he just goes straight through,
It doesn't slow really.
Yeah, that's pretty much. Yeah, it just flows along really well, and it just ends perfectly.
Yes.
That's what I think.
And I guess I'm almost kind of similar with you guys. I think I'd seen Modern Times actually 2 other times before this one. But even after seeing it those other 2 times, I was kind of scared going into it. A lot of people have with the criticism of this movie is the first half, or the factory scene specifically, is basically better than the rest of the movie. And, a lot of people do remember it, obviously, for great reasons, that scene. They remember the whole movie based on that scene. But I was just really happy watching it this time around, and we're going to get into it throughout this review, to me, the second half is basically just as good.
Yeah.
And, the social commentary aspect of it is not as obvious, but it's still there even in the second half of the movie as well.
Heavily.
It's just combined with a lot of, and this is what I kind of love about it, it's combined more with his basically Chaplin shorts hijinks, where it's a lot of short comedy bits once again, even compared to something like City Lights, where it's more narrative based. This one goes back to more of his just going from job to job almost, just messing up and
go back to jail,
kind of sleeping in a mall overnight, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Helping robbers when they're stealing, But we should start from the beginning, or at least we shouldn't skip. We obviously shouldn't skip past the factory scene.
Yeah.
But I wanted to mention because you mentioned the sheep shot, and remember in the Chaplin Today.
The black sheep.
Yes, I didn't notice that until they mentioned it. Where there's actually one black sheep in that crowd of the Creep Shop, and
Oh.
that's supposed to be the tramp, basically.
Nice.
In that factory. He's even foreshadowing what the tramp's going to be like in the factory.
Nice.
But basically, I think honestly, this just deserves its own little mini review of the factory scene itself.
yeah.
So what do you guys think? What are your first impressions?
Yeah.
What do you guys think of the factory scene?
No, what I love the most, like the detail I love the most about it, is that the only person there, well, okay, one of the only people there that actually like has a voice and like actually speaks is the guy, as the main guy. Basically, I feel like that I interpret it as like he's the only one with a voice, basically.
Like the boss?
Yeah, pretty
Yes,
much.
yes.
Like the workers don't have a say in anything; they're
Yep.
just slaves. And then I mean, just like that whole scene, just everything about just the comedy in that is just perfect. Honestly,
Yes.
like
No, because remember, like I mentioned at the beginning, this was Chaplin's first movie with dialogue, and the dialogue comes, modern, like basically his little comment on modern society. The dialogue comes from a boss speaking through a microphone. But then when we see him behind the curtain, kind of thing, he just like has nothing to do with his office.
Yeah,
he's just sitting
there
he's just
doing
eating
nothing.
breakfast,
Yeah.
reading
Yeah.
the newspaper, and then every once in a while he'll get on a speakerphone and gets mad at someone else.
yeah, for
you know.
going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great. Yeah, we honestly, because I was just about to mention that. That's one of my favorite parts of this. Noticing this time around, it's just like companies would love to do that if they
Oh,
could,
for
where
sure,
it's like
dude.
they can just monitor what you're doing in the bathroom too as well.
Yeah.
Like, and the fact is like it's a huge TV screen like that
Yeah.
just turns on when he's trying to smoke.
Jump
Like,
scares him.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
No, I love that. But it kind of it's just like a little moment that points to that whole factory scene in the first place, and it kind of just combines the social commentary aspect, but not more of the hijinks part, but more of like Chaplin had some great sets. And
Yes.
this one is probably his best, just with that machine gag alone.
It's crazy,
Him going
dude.
through the gears, but it also has the machine, the inventor, where it's
eating
like
machine?
the
that
eating
is-
machine.
Oh my goodness.
The eating machine, like, I was watching it this time and I was like, I don't even know how they made this thing work.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I was like, what in the world, dude?
And the fact that like right when the inventor, like he's just starting to brag to the guy, like
Yeah.
to the people around him, he's like, see, look at this, and then that's when it starts to fail, and like they don't even care about the tramp the whole time.
No, yeah.
They're just trying to fix the machine. They don't care that he's actually getting like hurt by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great gag, but like the biggest gag is the machine where he's going through the gears,
Yeah.
and then
And
I honestly don't even know how they did that still.
Yeah.
Like,
I love when he just like after he like stops like turning the nuts and bolts and stuff, he like keep doing it in real life.
Yes,
still has
yeah,
And then he
yeah.
chases that woman or whatever.
Yeah,
Well,
with the
I mean,
with the screws on
'cause
her
that-
tits.
and honestly, that's one of the more like, in some ways, it is kind of dark. Like in some, if you read it at a certain level, it's kind of a dark moment
is,
in the movie
yeah.
because he snaps at that point. Working in a factory, and I remember
They even say it in there. They were like, he's
Nervous
crazy.
breakdown.
He's crazy. I think the guy literally says he's gone crazy.
He's gone crazy. I think the title card says nervous breakdown. And that's
Yeah,
why he
like,
has to
that's
go to the
after,
hospital. Yeah. But Chaplin, the reason why he got the idea, especially for the factory scene, was he had read about the the Ford manufacturing process at this time and what it did to a lot of the workers. Basically a lot of them.
lines?
Yes, on assembly lines, a lot of workers reporting nervous breakdowns and stuff just from doing the same thing over and over again.
Oh yeah.
And like, that's what makes it kind of Chaplin. It's funny, but it's also like, you're laughing at something that's kind of serious too. Like,
Yeah.
I can
Like, it's
relate.
a comic,
I get
yeah.
nervous breakdowns basically. I almost get nervous breakdowns every day at work. I mean.
Because even the eating gag, which is one of the funnier ones in the factory, it's like even that's just like tinged with like darkness because it's like the only reason they have that is so they don't have to stop working while
Yep,
they're eating.
yep,
So it's
exactly.
which is like every worker's biggest nightmare, obviously.
And it's of course like any like the dream for a company would be like if they didn't have to give you a lunch break.
Yes.
Like. But I mean, that kind of does really end the factory scene though. At least the first time. He does go back a little later on, but first time he has a nervous breakdown, and that leads to one of my favorite parts of the movie of him in prison. Well, we should talk about how he gets to prison first with the protest.
Yeah.
Where he just like randomly picks
Yeah.
up a flag that's on the ground, and
Yeah.
this whole crowd starts following him, and then he gets arrested. It's a great moment, but I love like just the little comment of he's in prison and he like just this is like the best he's ever lived.
Oh,
You know?
yes.
Like it's just a small moment, but the first time you see him in his cell, he's like reading the newspaper. It's like a perfectly designed, like he has a perfectly little set up room. You can tell he loves it.
Yeah.
And then there's like Chaplin actually plays like bird chirping noises on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like
I didn't
just
know
to
that.
just like to point out like how he just loves it. And Because that's basically why he's like trying to go back to prison a little later on in the movie.
Yeah, I mean
But
that's a lot of things with a lot of prisoners, though. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
Like,
Yes.
Yeah, that's why.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
a huge
If you can like get
complicator.
if you know the world out there is not going to offer you certain jobs, or like obviously like the tramp knows, like
Yep.
we've seen the tramps throughout the course of his life, obviously through these movies, but we know like him having a room to sleep in every night is actually a positive for him.
Yeah, and like one of the I actually like paid attention to like what was in his cell whenever he was walking out the last time, and I wrote it down. Like he literally had a home sweet home sign in the background, and he had like an Abraham Lincoln picture in the background. I was like, oh my god, like so he's saying this is his freedom basically.
Because one of the title cards is literally happy in his comfortable cell.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And then he eats cocaine,
Yeah, that was my favorite. That was one of my favorite gags in the whole movie, honestly. Though.
And the fact he eats cocaine on accident, and then the reason he gets let go early is because the cocaine helps him beat up the people that are escaping.
Yeah.
And he really has no idea what he's doing.
Confirmed,
Like,
guys. Charlie Chaplin endorses cocaine. You're right here to hear first. But.
And then just that comment of him trying to get back to prison.
Oh yeah.
Once he gets back in the city, and a great moment of him trying to get back is ordering all that food. Like no, he's not gonna be able to pay for it. And he just like happily like walks up, and then he goes to call the cop. It's like, hey, come in here.
Yeah. That's another part where it's like where it's kind of a callback to like at least the immigrant whenever he's like eating whenever they're eating at the restaurant he can't afford to pay it. But he's actually scaring that one because he's like I can't pay it. So
that's what.
But that's another. It's like that thing we were talking about where how the second half's kind of like just a conglomerations of his shorts sketches kind of.
That's a good point. That's one.
No, but I actually really like before he leaves like the before he like even leaves the prison the guy like says you're a free man. And then Charlie's like, but can't I stay here? I'm so happy here.
Yeah.
Like, he literally vocalizes
and the sheriff just laughs.
Yeah, the sheriff literally just laughs, not thinking anything of it. Because he's like, oh, why would you be happier out there? Or in here? Because they don't get it.
And I'm pretty sure the very next scene after that leads to him using that letter to get his first job. Which is the when he's working as a dock worker, like for the ship, when he's working on the ships.
Oh, yeah.
And then he immediately lets the ship go. And like it's a great shot of the ship going into the water.
That's some crazy staging too.
Yeah,
it is.
Because you could tell like it was probably projection in the background
Yeah.
like, of the boat actually leaving. But
Still looks
it was a
really
good,
real.
Yes,
It looks insane.
but my favorite part of that is actually the reactions when they cut to all the people like looking at him, and he's just like, and then he just goes, picks up his cat and cane and walks off.
Yep.
That's it. Like, he already knows. Oh my gosh. But yeah, that really leads to the second half of the movie where it's just him having a bunch of different jobs and losing them. But
and then him with the girl as well.
Well, the girl, we should mention her.
Yeah. Well, I actually had like his determination. His determination to go back to jail is like what leads him to meeting the girl, obviously.
Yeah.
Because first off, I wrote down actually in my notes like his determination to go to jail is like it's hilarious and sad, but it also shows like Tramp's positive qualities of like giving to people and more in need than him. Like whenever he gives the chocolate bars to those kids, just so he can go to jail basically because he knows he can't pay for them, so he's just giving away all these like all this stuff to these kids that are hungry, and he's like, oh, I can't pay for it, and then that's whenever the cop like takes him.
And that's when he also takes credit for
the girl,
her stealing as well. And he's like, no, it was me.
Yeah.
Until that woman.
And then that was foiled too. Yeah.
And I think that like all the basically him showing all this affection for the girl and just especially like comes like it all boils up to a point and towards the end when when she's like going to jail and she helps her like escape from the cops and then they both walk off together, like all of that like basically what he does for the girl throughout the movie just boils out to that point perfectly. I feel like.
Yes.
Yep. No, it does. And really what I like about the girl in this one, even compared to some of the women in his other movies, is to me in this one she's the most basically like how we see her before she even meets the tramp is she's the most like the tramp.
Yeah.
She's kind of like a young tramp in a lot of ways, right?
Is.
Like she's like hard-headed, but she obviously cares for the people, like she's helping her sisters and everything, but at the same time she doesn't care about stealing or stuff like that. She doesn't think it's morally wrong.
She definitely has a stronger personality than the tramp. I feel
that's
like,
definitely true. Yeah, no, they're not the one to one the same, but he's like I'm saying more like he sees himself in her.
That's fair. Yeah.
And she does give it a certain kind of emotional weight to the movie as well, like the tramp needs. Like I think we mentioned in the last episode. There's always a woman that gets him to act unselfishly. You know, but. That would actually be a good way to like look at his movies, how the women in his different movies are different, and similar.
Yeah.
You know? Because like from A Woman in Paris is obviously way different than
way
this
different,
one.
Yeah.
But maybe you
City
could
Lights
find.
is different. I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
like,
because she's more, you know, like. And that's what I'm saying. This one, she's the most like the tramp herself,
Yeah.
right?
City Lights, the City Lights girl is more dependent on other people. Well, this one is more dependent on herself.
Yeah, okay.
This is another one.
Saying, yes,
this is another one
yes.
where kind of like the Vagabond, where it's like the
Yes.
girl is just
yes.
like that's the one that I was thinking of in this
Yes.
one, where I was like, she is almost exactly like the girl in the Vagabond, where he's just and she's also kind of similar to the girl in the circus too.
Okay.
But
yeah. No, but I do like her in this one as well, and
yeah,
I kind of like the similarities between them.
I think she's my favorite in this one because of the ending first off, and because I think this is like the first like female character that I could see like actually being really happy with Charlie or like with like the tramp.
Okay.
Well, maybe the girl. I think the girl in City Lights also would have been happy with him, but like all the other ones are more like they've never experienced what he's experienced, you know, like what he's gone through.
Okay,
but like these these few characters that have like actually faced real adversity, like I feel like the connection. That's why I like the circus, City Lights, and this one a lot. Like and Modern Times the most, I think so far, is because all those female characters, like you can just feel the connection that they have with the tramp, and it's just I don't know, it just hits the emotions just hit me a little bit harder knowing that like these people have also faced the same type of adversity as like someone like the tramp has. I don't know. I feel like they understand each other more.
Yeah.
And maybe kind of relating to that, she gives us maybe. I've said this about a few of his dream sequences, but this is definitely one of his best.
Yeah.
When we see the tramp, you know, dream of his happy life,
His dream house.
his dream house, you know, and it's so perfectly the way they're like sitting outside of a house. And they're just under a tree, like, you know, on the run.
Under a dead tree,
yeah.
Or something like that.
And then they just start dreaming about what their life could be like in the future if they had a house. And my favorite little moment is when he opens the door and he calls for a cow. And then
Yes.
Because that's, I'm pretty sure in Sunnyside. That gag is in Sunnyside.
It might be in Sunnyside. I was also
where
thinking
a cow
whenever
just walks in randomly, remember, and he milks it.
Yeah. He does do that in Sunnyside.
Yeah,
actually.
so like, that, you know, it's just another one of those gags he pulls.
I was thinking of the mule in Gold Rush too. It was whenever he was like having the dinner and the mule just butts his head in.
Oh yeah.
Whenever no one's it was different than this one, obviously.
No, but when he but just that whole like it's got that whole dream quality. And it's like it's kind of sad at the same time, you know, like
it is, yeah.
you know they probably won't have it, you know, because Chaplin almost answers that himself. Where the house they actually get, you know, we see the real house they get. You know, it's broken down. It's like. It looks like the cabin from the Gold Rush.
It's a squatter's house.
Yeah.
But he's happy.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Yes, no, it doesn't impact the tramp at all. You know, he's really happy still.
They both are. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why I like the relationship between them so much, because they would, if this was the only house they ever had, they'd be happy with each other, you know, for the rest of their life, basically.
To be honest, I mean, the City Lights girl probably would be happy with it because she probably doesn't know what it looks like. I mean,
even though
she probably doesn't. She would at the end though.
What makes the tramp go and get that job at the factory the second time is like, no, we're good. He's like, we're gonna get a better house because he sees he like looks around and he sees the house breaking apart basically.
Yeah.
And he sees in the paper then, you know.
Yeah.
Factory hiring.
No, yeah, I literally wrote down that title card. I'll do it. We'll get a home, even if I have to work for it. I was like, let's go. I was like, that's so funny.
True. He didn't work for this.
Yeah, he didn't work for anything.
He just comes up because after he gets out of jail the second time.
Yeah.
He comes up and she comes up like, I found a house for us, and that's it. You know.
Yeah.
No, but yeah. So that's what leads him to the factory the second time, which leads to you know, the whole thing with where he's the assistant to the mechanic and he like.
Yes.
Smashes a stopwatch
that's
and everything. Like
that one's really great. Yeah. But that's another one where it's like I don't know like how they. I guess it's probably just like that entire mechanical thing that the mechanic is stuck in.
Yeah.
Is probably just like really empty on the inside, so he's just able to stick his head out. But like it looks
the
so real.
Look,
yeah. And I love
the
when
production design
when it gets like when he's like in the thing, like his head poking out.
Yes.
Like they go to lunchtime.
Yes.
And, like,
it's so
he just doesn't even care at that point. He's
Yep,
like feeding me. Like
yes.
No, it's like every person's like, no, I don't work on the clock. I don't work on the clock. You know.
Well, I mean, like the machinery stopped working, so Charlie couldn't even do it.
No, but he stops even trying when the bell rings for lunch. He's like, no, it's lunch, and instead he like tries to feed him like a whole chicken. Like,
yes.
Just another little short bit that Charlie does with the food. But that leads to maybe like when I was saying earlier about how the second half still has its little social commentary moments, even when it's filled with more like short gags, is the scene where they spend the time in the mall, where he gets a job as the night manager.
Yeah.
And I just love how the first thing he does right after he gets the job, he goes and lets her in.
Yeah.
Just to feed her, like, just he does not care about even losing the job right after he gets it, like just to feed her, But I just because especially in 1936, right? Like this was around the time, even though this was after the Great Depression, but this was around the time when literally malls were becoming a thing.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, I mean, I guess malls are kind of dying now, which is crazy. But back then, malls were kind of the proof of, you have a lot of money. Like you live in a wealthy society kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like look at all this stuff you can buy at this one place.
Consumerism.
Yes, but in a way, it also shows like for a night they're able to live like a normal American. They can enjoy a normal American bed and like all the appliances and stuff like that throughout the mall. But then in between all that, you get the great skating scene.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen how he even shot that? You guys
Is it like a projection? No,
he had like a. It was kind of a thing where he had like it was like a forced perspective kind of thing where he had like a picture of the like drop off, like perfectly set up, and the camera was like shooting it. When the camera's shooting it, it sees that in the perfect place where you don't even notice it's a picture.
Yes.
Basically,
Okay.
It's kind of hard to explain.
Just a picture.
There's a video online that.
Okay, you'll have to.
I'd look up.
I can link it to the description too. Just
it's crazy. Like it'll show you like what it looked like without it. Like it's insane how he even thought of that. To be honest, like to do that, that's crazy. And setting it up must have been so hard.
No, it sounds like I need to watch that. And it's just a great scene of him skating blindfolded, not knowing about the ledge, and then immediately when he sees the ledge, he
actually starts losing his. He starts losing his balance.
And that's another reference to another one of his shorts, The Ring.
Yep.
Where because in your review of The Ring, he mentioned
he's good at everything he does,
and
dude.
It's so true with the skating. He's just like showing off at this point.
He is. No, I feel like every time, there's another scene, and, I actually wrote this one down in my notes, too, just because I wanted to remember it, but there's another scene, whenever he's practicing singing, where he puts his hat on sideways and turns so fast that it just drops onto his head perfectly. I'm like, this guy, he just does anything he wants and, succeeds, basically.
Especially with the hat, He does a lot of cool hat tricks throughout his,
he does,
throughout
his years,
But then, I guess the mall scene ends with just another little great moment where I mentioned earlier with the robbers coming to steal, and he recognizes one of the robbers.
One of the robbers recognizes him. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because he had already drunk all the whiskey in that thing.
Trying to save him from leaking. But yeah, Big Bill. I think his name was Big Bill in the movie.
Yeah, something like that.
He recognizes him, and he says, "We ain't burglars. We're just hungry."
Yeah.
And it's just another relatable moment. And obviously the tramp. And that's what makes it even better. The tramp understands that moment, just he understands where that guy is.
He's
basically.
been there,
And he's kind of doing the same thing too.
Yeah,
immediately when he got the
exact
job, he
same
let her
thing,
eat food, all the food there too. So he'd be kind of hypocrite if he didn't get the food. So.
And he was drunk as hell. So.
Yeah. But it's just another great moment where Chaplin understands a lot of these people stealing are doing it because out of desperation, they have to, right? And doing it at a mall where it's just an example of excess is maybe the best place to do it, if you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And then I think what's the scene after that? Because
the scene after that, they get arrested. He gets arrested again.
What does he get arrested for that time? I don't remember.
Doesn't he get arrested? Because I know that he gets out one more time because he gets out of prison one more time because that's whenever she picks him up in her outfit. She's actually all dressed up this time.
Was it during the?
He gets arrested for the mall.
Yeah, that's
what I remember when he gets arrested because he's sleeping under the clothes.
Yes.
In the morning, and when the store is opening up, one of the ladies pulls the clothes and he's just asleep.
Yeah.
So basically, he just used that job for the night, literally just to save a place for the night.
Yeah,
and he
basically.
got a job with that, which is kind of funny. But then after he gets out of prison is when she gets him the job at the music hall, right?
Yeah, she had already gotten the job before, and then she gets him the job while he's in prison. Yeah.
And that's what leads to maybe my favorite moment with the tramp.
It's one of the best of all time.
Yes,
so.
But the tramp singing.
Yeah.
The tramp's first dialogue, the tramp's last dialogue, but then it's not even words. It's just kind of gibberish.
Yeah.
He combined English, French, and Italian, I think, for the languages. But
it still sounds
great.
Yes, and it's telling a story too. It's telling a story about the pantomime is apparently about a guy offering a girl a ring, and then they make love or something, and then she leaves him or something, and that's what he's pantomiming throughout the thing. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I've watched it a few times, and I can kind of tell, especially with the ring and stuff, and where he pushes her away at the end and stuff.
Yeah.
But the the way he does the song and dance is just amazing.
Yeah. And the whole it was also that scene's really funny with him as a waiter, basically.
Yeah, the whole scene is good. Like that's definitely there's a lot of Chaplin bits in there from his shorts of him as a waiter, but. Like the roasted chicken,
the roasted,
like,
the roasted duck getting stuck on
the roasted duck,
on the light is hilarious.
Well, him like trying to go through the crowd while holding it on his hand,
and they all just converge on him.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's his fault for choosing the wrong path, dude. Don't go through the dance room, man.
But yeah, really, that's the moment like that kind of ties the whole movie together to me, and it's just a kind of a perfect way to end the tramp. You know, it's like. Fine, I'll give you the dialogue you guys want.
And
then finally have him walking off with someone happily, basically.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a great conclusion to the character.
And right before that too is a moment I love because it is kind of a theme throughout the Tramps movies. And the main example I always think of is City Lights, where the rich guy, he's the one that's wanting to commit suicide, and then the Tramp's always the one that's like, you have a reason to live, you know, there's a reason to move forward. And that's what he tells her at the end too. That same kind of Tramp speech, right?
Yeah.
Like she's like, "Why even do anything? You know, like, what's the point?" And he's like, "There's always a reason or something." I forget what he says exactly, but he basically just encourages her, and then that's what leads to the last moment of them walking.
Yeah.
And it's just a perfect ending for the Tramp.
It is. I honestly like. Well, like you during the singing scene, even like I was telling you before the podcast, but I was like watching the background. Like I was wanting to like watch the background extras because I was just I saw a couple of them. Like smiling and laughing really hard, and so I just decided to like watch them for a second during like whenever he was like singing and dancing, and the look of expressions that they had on their faces was like pretty amazing, honestly, because it looked like they were enjoying it just as much as me, you know.
Dang.
Like it literally looked like he was putting on he's obviously putting on this performance, but like he's literally putting on a show for all these extras at the time, and I don't know, it's just a great way to end the Tramp, like even just movie wise, like for the extras and everything, like that was a great way, like a great send off for the Tramp. And like the chase scene is also pretty good because that's also a really good callback, and it's another part where I was like, this is like one of the like more subtle versions of Chaplin putting in his societal commentary of cops in the prison system whenever they're trying to arrest her for literally doing nothing. Like she's not doing anything, but they only see her as part of the system, and it's like whenever they were like show the picture and like they had to take her because she was
a vagrant or something.
She was a vagrant, yeah. Like even though
she had a job at that point.
Even though she had a job at that point, it turned her life around. Like they still had to take her because like that's how the state sees you. You know, like once you've done something wrong, they think of you as like an object. They don't think of you as a person.
They don't care about the situation right now or anything.
And that callback was like the callback I had to earlier in the movie was whenever Charlie was set free. Like the warden called him, they were like, "Bring me number 7," and I was like, they can't even like even whenever he's free, they don't even like bother to like call him by his name. You know, he's still a number to them. So it's like it's just like a way. It was just a more subtle way of like his societal commentary at that point. Cops specifically, because he doesn't like cops at all in any of his movies, obviously.
But you mentioning that made me think of more of like the kid. You know, I forget the exact quote, but like he says something like the help is on the way or something when they come to
the
take
proper
the kid
help or something.
Yes, something like that. Yeah, that reminds me of that. But it is, to me, it's I guess we can talk about this more next week when we conclude Chaplin, about our favorite Chaplins and stuff like that maybe. But like to me, I was kind of nervous, like I mentioned at the beginning. I was nervous that this one wouldn't hold up to like City Lights or even the Circus in terms of just overall end-to-end Chaplin, like the way I've been hyping him up throughout, where he's like he doesn't feel like he has a wasted movie moment in any of those movies. And this one I was getting kind of scared where that wouldn't hold true, but it definitely doesn't hold true this time.
It does hold true, yeah.
Or it does hold true that he doesn't have a wasted moment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like because the almost not the genre, but like the type of movie changes constantly. I can see why certain people would be like, I have a favorite moment and the rest aren't good. But to me, it's like once, especially watching through all the shorts again, realizing a lot of them are just callbacks to his shorts. You know, it is the last Tramps movie. You know, so he's gonna call back. He has to do his callbacks. So, just seeing that a lot this time is like, damn, I just like love every moment of this movie.
Yeah,
now.
I hadn't watched any Chaplin shorts before watching the Modern Times the first time.
Same.
I've watched probably 40 since the last 2 weeks. I've probably watched like 40 to 50 Chaplin shorts since then. So it's been So watching Modern Times this time, I definitely recognized a lot of similarities between his shorts, and I really loved the callbacks to those.
Yeah. What about you, Luke? Any last thoughts from Modern Times?
Yeah, I mean, just good movie, you know.
I do want to end by saying, like, I love how I didn't watch. I watched The Circus before this, and the ending of The Circus is kind of a great like dichotomy with this ending, where like he literally gets left behind and walks off in the sunset by himself. In the last movie of The Tramp, he finally it feels like he finally found the one that made him happy, and so he's walking off in the sunset with her.
Yeah,
and it's a great send off for The Tramp. I really love the ending.
Yeah, I agree.
And to
Modern
me,
Times
like,
definitely holds up.
just to kind of conclude it, like, to me, even more than, because we didn't argue about it with City Lights, but we kind of maybe disagreed a little bit about if he would end up with her.
Yeah.
To me, it feels more likely he would end up with someone like her in this one.
Yeah.
Just because what I was saying earlier about she feels more like she even understands what the tramp goes through more than she even did, you know, the blind girl in the City Lights.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I like, you know, like it's like he's going off with this younger version of himself in some ways.
Yeah.
I do have one more thing to say. I forgot how good the score was in this movie.
Oh,
my god.
Yes. No, I've been listening especially to there's like the lunchtime score for one of because I've been listening to the score, but to decide what I was going to add for the podcast episode, and the lunchtime score is just amazing.
The main score is my favorite, honestly. Just the
does that play like during the intro? I don't remember when it plays.
I don't even remember when it plays. Okay. It just plays. It plays quite a bit though.
Okay, I'll find it after. But yes, that is another part as well. But I guess we should just move on to the next one, The Great Dictator, 1940, and that one kind of relates to Modern Times in terms of these are probably his two most, at least openly commentary. Like you can see the commentary in society right on the surface.
Beats you upon the head.
And this is definitely his most.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe because Monsoor Verdot definitely has a lot as well, but that one's way more subtle.
It's crazy how this one he basically said if he knew what like the actual atrocities the Germans were doing, he wasn't gonna make it.
Yeah. Because that's what's weird. Like, and we'll talk about it, I guess, throughout the course of the episode. But to me, this one more than any of his others, it's special in a certain way in terms of. I feel like it would have been way more impactful if you were there at the time, watching it.
Probably.
You know,
yeah.
Because like in hindsight, knowing like, because we're basically 80 years away, 70 or 80 years away from that, But at the time, and we already know what Hitler, like you said, we already knew all the atrocities Hitler did. So in certain ways, it can kind of seem like he's making fun of a subject basically. That's really serious, and maybe it's like to me it doesn't work all the way in certain moments.
I still feel like I don't know, like I understand why Chaplin said that obviously because I honestly feel like the comedy that he does for Hingle is pretty funny in this. Honestly, like I think he tears him down pretty well. Yeah. But even the scenes with the Jews, like. They're pretty harrowing. Like he literally almost gets hung. Like he almost gets lynched, dude. Yeah. Like this is like there were harrowing things in this.
No, they show him in a concentration camp.
Yeah, they literally. Well,
concentration.
Prison. It said prison.
No, it's a Chaplin concentration.
It's a Chaplin. Yeah. Like it was definitely like that. That scene was more of the one where it kind of like where I was like, this one kind of gets a little bit more like.
Yeah.
Like that one was more like that. Yeah, that one was more like this part would probably be a part that he might take. He might have taken out. Like he might have taken that part out. Yeah. But like the scenes with like him with the Jews, like that stuff is like really harrowing, and it's like
because the scene where the place is burning in the background where they're just talking about where they're gonna go next kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's like a dark moment. Yeah, there's definitely like
there's a lot of dark moments in this, and I mean like it is played for fun sometimes with like whenever they like tell him to paint Jew on his on his window because he's taking it down. He just slaps in the face with the paint all the time. Like that stuff is funny still.
And then the pan banging on.
But it's also a good comment on if a guy, because there were a lot of Jews in Germany that fought in World War I.
Yes, there were.
Let's say he did go in a coma and he had no idea about anything that happened in the last 20 years, and he comes back. He would be like, "What are you talking? Like, what do you mean? I've been there for since 1920. I fought in World War I for this country. Like, what do you mean? Like,
And honestly, we should have actually started with that because the opening to this movie is honestly it makes what happens to him even worse, and it makes it more like relatable. Obviously, like you said, because there were thousands of Jews that fought for Germany in World War I that got killed, like at the start of World War II because of Hitler and his bullshit, but.
Not even like all throughout the late 30s as well. Yeah, that is Star Wars.
The lead up.
Yeah,
the lead up to and I feel like he also like just before you go, like I feel like the lead up to like Hinkle's like speech where like they actually get scared for their lives. Yeah. Like the build up to that is actually pretty well done too. Where like it's not obviously a historically accurate like version of like how Jews in Germany were treated as Hitler kept on rising, but it was a pretty cool way to show like the immediate like it was like immediate the immediate change that happened, and like the like their faces like walking back to the house. Because they were out in the street and they were like, we should go back to the house. And then Charlie loses his bowler. And as Kane, he's like, I have to go back for the cane and bowler.
Well, because we'll get to that. Because I want to start. You said we should start from the beginning. Because really thinking about it, honestly, the intro might be my favorite part of the movie. And I do like Hinkle and everything, but just the whole, just like the shoulder arms of you, so shoulder arms.
It does feel so shoulder arms.
Because him with like the can and everything, and then the shell like following him around because the sun goes off stuff.
He's on the anti-air thing, and he's just turning upside down.
Yeah, and then he finds the pilot, and that's crashed. And then like the pilot's like, "Can you fly?" He's like, "I can learn." Like
he's like, "No, but I can try."
Yeah, I can try. Yeah, I can try.
Guys, I wrote that one down. I laughed so
and
hard.
And the upside down aircraft bit was
I know those are so impressive. I don't even know how they did that. Like,
it's probably like
just on a platform.
Yeah, a model airplane that they probably like had like a background for or something, I guess.
But I mean, like their hair also.
Well, they probably had like this contraption where they had then you could like.
And they probably had something blowing a lot of wind towards them too.
Probably that.
The water does like actually. Look
it does.
Like
it
globs,
actually.
you know?
No,
like,
it doesn't glob. It falls straight down.
Yeah, it falls straight down, but into glob like where you see it in space. You know that kind of like where water's like that.
That's true. Yeah.
So yeah, that is. I should have looked up how they did that, but I'm sure you can find.
It was a really insane. It was a really great.
Yeah, no, it's a great. It's funny too, like with the watch and everything.
Yeah.
And then when he, because when he realizes, is like when he takes the seatbelt off to like fix something, and then he falls out immediately. He's like, "Oh, we're upside down." He's like, "Yeah, I know."
Yeah,
like,
that's so funny. He's like, "I know."
But yeah, that kind of just. He does actually a pretty good job of making you kind of forget that scene happens as the rest of the movie happens. You know, before the that pilot character becomes important again because we see him as a man, you know, where he saves him at the last moment before he gets hung.
Yeah.
Like I'd kind of forgotten a little bit, like
it's like the Germans.
This is where they met.
The Germans forgot about it as well. Honestly.
Yeah.
I was so that I'm just still thinking about this because like whenever he falls over, he's like we're upside down. I know, and he's like, can you pull the lever? He's like, no, because he's what he's hanging on. It's like what he's hanging from. I don't know. That seems it's probably one of the best stunts in the movie. Like one of the funnier parts in the movie, honestly.
And that leads to the Adenoid Hinkle
introduction.
Honestly, that ties into my main problem with this movie.
Okay.
Is that I love the Adenoid Hinkle scene so much that anytime he's not on screen, I'm like, I want to go back to Adenoid Hinkle.
Okay.
Like, it's crazy. Like, it's he almost, you know, he's suffering from success, you know.
He does. Like, I can see, like, especially the Hinkle gibberish scenes, like of him actually yelling and stuff. Like his opening speech scene is so funny.
Just the scenes where he's like running around his like place and
the
like,
office too.
Yeah, it's like hilarious.
Like, because when they introduce Hinkle in his office, they're like, Hinkle busy at work, and he's like. Just like mailing, like he's like just folding a letter to mail it, you know. And he's like spending a lot of time on it.
And then he puts the mail up to the guy, to his officer, to have him look at it.
And then he acts busy. He like goes to like this artist where like three artists just waiting for him to walk in for like 5 seconds, and then he leaves.
It's hilarious.
And just a little bit, the little, honestly, some of my favorite little gag moments are the inventors. The inventions where the guy keeps bringing it. It's like, oh, we have a bulletproof vest. And the way the guy like presents himself, he like sticks both his hands out, like, shoot me. And then he gets shot.
He shot us, yeah.
And then the other guy with the parachute helmet.
Parachute hat.
It's a classic
helmet.
too.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It's just so simply done. It's like, why do you keep showing me these? Like, Hinkle says right after that guy gets all mad at him.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way he bullies that assistant general, I forgot his name in the movie, is funny throughout.
I can't remember.
Like taking his buttons off and stuff like that. But
I know who you're talking about.
Clearly trying to
the fat guy, basically.
Yes.
Sorry,
but I guess that when you mentioned that kind of wanted to make me talk about the other side, which I like, but it is kind of the weaker side of the movie, which is the Jewish barber aspect of it.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I think he actually does a pretty good job of showing like the Jewish community and like basically how much it changed, like how they were being persecuted, you know.
Yeah,
it's still a good part. Like, I still like the Jewish scenes. It's just there's levels to it. It's so much I just love the Adenoid Hinkle scene so much. Like,
no, I agree with you. But I think it does do pretty like it does a good job at moments, but I'll say I guess what I don't like as much is especially the girl in this one, Paula Goddard in this one. She's like really like
she's playing. It feels like a '40s movie. Almost.
Yeah, like she's too direct. You know, like what I love about Chaplin is he's not direct at all.
Yeah.
You know, like. But
she
you
plays
can
it up a lot.
Yeah, and she's like very direct, like we need to fight, this kind of thing. Like she like, and to be fair, that's what I'm saying. Of the moment, it would have been very different to watch it, because watching that not modern times, the Chaplin Today Great Dictator documentary, where they mentioned how at the time this movie was actually controversial to make even in 1940 about Hitler.
Yeah.
Because it's like we don't want to, because we don't want to piss him off. When they started filming, it was 1938. So like 2 years is a big difference in political time. So yeah. So like even then, a lot of people are like in 1930, like we don't want to bother Hitler that much.
We don't want to
don't rile things up. Don't rile things up, that kind of thing. And Chaplin's like, I don't care. Look what he's doing to Jewish people even at the time.
I wonder. Do you guys remember when the U.S. joined the war? Was that
41?
So
the end of 41.
So that would make sense why they didn't want to.
Soon after. Yeah. But that's what makes it like I kind of mentioned at the beginning, where it would have been cooler to watch this movie if you were in the times, because it doesn't feel like a brave movie watching today. Like, oh, we know the Nazis are bad, and you're saying Hitler's bad, we get it. But like at the time, it was very different. Where a good way to put it is he was the funniest man in the world at the time, or at least known as it. And he was even coming out against the most evil guy in the world, or at least one of them.
I don't want to say. I don't like using this term, but it's almost propagandic, but like not in a bad way.
No.
Yeah, it's the inspiring part of propaganda that he uses.
Yeah, he's way more direct about his message, and I guess that's just on. And I'm not saying that because I understand why he did it, and I agree with him and everything like that. But just in terms of going through all of Chaplin's movies, what I like about him the most is that he's never really that direct. Especially comparing it to modern times where the social commentary is very obvious, but it's not direct in the movie itself, right? The movie feels like it's still flowing on its own terms, right? He's not talking directly to the audience and saying, this is how you should feel, or this is, who's the good guy and the bad guy,
But I honestly think that's a conscious choice from him.
It is. I mean, and that's very obvious at the end of the speech. And that's what I'm saying. If you were in the times, right? If Hitler still had not been defeated.
But you don't even need to think about it. With the speech, at least, is definitely not even just for the time. Like that speech is
timeless.
The speech is great. The speech is great.
Timeless. I love that.
But just the whole movie in general, like, and I kind of mean it from both ways too, in terms of like what Luke mentioned, that Chaplin quote about him saying, if I had known in advance all the atrocities, I probably wouldn't have made the movie. Yeah. I can to me, this one more than any of his other ones, where it feels like some of the jokes miss just because they do feel a little too light for the subject matter he's tackling. Like imagine watching this and then watching like Showa or something, or even Night and Fog. Like it just feels like. But of course, he didn't know the extent of like what Hitler was doing in terms of what we know now.
And I think that's just all movies like made at this time. Like even Casablanca, when the one character's like, "Oh, I just got back from the concentration camp. Let's go fight those Nazis."
Yeah.
You can just all of Hollywood didn't really know.
No. I mean, and that's part of history. You can't really know until like there are historians still learning things now that people would not even know, even like the 70s or 80s when they were learning about it. Like, that's part of history. But that's what I kind of like, at least about Chaplin's. He did care to such a degree that he felt that it was important to break his kind of normal rule of not being direct. And it's obvious, like you said, it was a conscious choice by him. It wasn't like he was doing an accident or anything.
Yeah.
It's just like, not to sound like too kind of like not caring about the content, but just I'm talking about just the formal aspects of the movie itself. Like I like how Modern Times is more than the Great Dictator in terms of the direct.
Modern Times is better than the Great Dictator, also in my opinion. But
yes, and a huge factor of that is I did find myself at times missing the tramp. Especially when the Jewish barber comes. Like he's kind of the tramp, but he's like, and understandably he's like more sad. He's more like. He's just more regular, He's more regular than the tramp is. The tramp is always like, in spite of circumstances, he's always kind of trampy confident. He's got that trampish confidence to him,
I'm not gonna lie though. I think Adenoid Hinkle as a character is on par with the tramp.
Okay,
in terms of like,
fair.
I just love every time he's on screen. I just love it like so much.
Even though we'll get, I guess we haven't talked to him about it yet, but Napoleone gives him a run for his money.
Napoleon.
He's the Italian Mussolini, basically, that comes in later.
Oh, he's the dictator. The other dictator.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, he's also really funny too, as Mussolini.
But he doesn't get enough screen time. I feel like though. So.
I honestly like the Jewish part just as much as the
Oh, okay.
other parts, but that's
like why? Like then
well,
why?
I mean, honestly, it's got some of his like funnier moments in it. With like the shaving scene is really funny, like we were talking about beforehand, like him shaving the music, and then that's the part where he most feels like the tramp for sure, is during that scene. But it is just it's whenever he gets his most harrowing, like in those scenes.
Yeah,
like
that's
it is whenever he actually shows, like this isn't actually what Jewish people. I mean, a lot of the stuff actually probably is what some of them were going through, but at worse, obviously, than what he's showing.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I even like just that lynching scene alone with the Jewish part, like that scene will stay with me for a while. Because I've never seen that in a Chaplin movie. You know, like that's not common for Chaplin. That's not like getting that harrowing isn't common for Chaplin. And I honestly think that like some of the skits with them eating the pies or the pudding, coin. And then they all have coins in there, but they're handing all the coins to Charlie because he just keeps on looking down. It's like, how much so many coins? And they start taking a finger, they start like jiggling.
I love how the last guy though is like, it's like, yes, I'm ready to die.
The last guy's the only one that's like noble.
Yeah, he's the old,
he's the father.
The dignified guy.
I think he's the father of the
he's
girl.
He's not the father of the girl.
Is he not the
father? He's like basically the landowner, the apartment owner.
Yeah, the apartment owner. Yeah.
And he's been housing her.
Yeah, because I also really like after that moment. I think it's after that moment the stormtroopers start to raid the slums.
Oh yeah.
Because it was during that I was like, he started miming to that guy or to like Captain Holt. Or is that his name? Captain Schultz.
The pilot.
Yeah, he started miming to Captain Schultz the stormtroopers are coming, thinking that he understands what he's saying. He's like, "Did you get that?" And he's like, "No, you didn't say anything." and then I just thought that was like so funny because it was just a throwback silent gag basically in his movie. Yeah, it's just like it was just a throwback silent gag. Like this is his first talkie,
yeah.
And so he just threw that in there just as like a silent gag and in the middle of this like really harrowing scene that I just really found funny. So
and another little moment I love in that scene when they're trying to when they realize the stormtroopers are coming and they have to run is the fact that Captain Schultz has all this stuff and they can't leave it in the apartment because they'll realize that he was there.
Yeah.
So they have to carry it, and it's just a little comment on, of course, this guy. He's still a general that has a lot of money compared to the poor people. Even if he still is being persecuted, it's like a little comment on class as well. You can't leave a rich guy his golf clubs. He's like, you gotta get my golf clubs because if they found golf clubs there,
and they dropped the suitcases. He's
like,
don't drop the golf clubs.
Yeah. Yep. No, but I love that little moment too. No. There's definitely some great moments with it. Yeah. It just like maybe it is kind of what Luke was saying. I like the Hinkle scenes better, and just I mentioned this to Blake before we started the podcast, but I could tell this time watching it a lot of the influence that this had on Doctor Strangelove, Kubrick's Doctor Strangelove. Yeah. And that's especially true with the political scenes with the leaders. When you can kind of see when you get behind the curtain, you just see how dumb the leaders are. And the barber makes this kind of reference in his last speech, which I guess we'll get to at the end. But we will. Just this idea of these people you're putting your trust in, and these people that are leading you to war. These are dumb people. They're way more they care way more about who's standing up taller, who's shaking hands better, that kind of stuff.
That little chair that they put him on is just so fucking funny, dude. Because he just sits down, he's just starts looking around, what the.
Because that's a great example of how Napoloni. I guess we haven't really introduced him, but I guess we're talking about Napoloni.
Yeah.
Who's basically
Italian dictator,
basically Mussolini,
whatever that Italy is in this movie.
Yeah.
Tunisia, whatever Italy is.
Bavaria.
Bavaria?
I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive. Yeah.
Bavaria is a real country, though, isn't it?
Is it?
I don't know.
Okay, I know that. I'm pretty sure it's Bavaria in this, but I love the fact that because remember right before he comes into that room, where Hinkle is, his assistant general, basically his minister of propaganda.
Air garbage.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, okay, so we're going to have him come in from the far side of the room. Yeah. We're going to put him in a tiny chair, and we're going to put a bust right in front of him. So he is looking. You're looking down at him the whole time. And then right when Napoloni comes in, he basically breaks every single one of those. Yeah. And I don't he kind of seems smart on the start. You can't tell if he actually knows what he's doing or if he's just this is who he is. So
Napoloni?
Napoloni.
Yeah.
You can't tell if he's thinking about it or either way it doesn't matter because it just throws Hinkle off that whole time.
Yeah.
Because he comes in from the back. which he's not expecting, like hits he calls him Hinky, which is so funny. He's like, hey Hinky, and he like slaps him on the back, and then they get him the chair. He sits in it for a second. And he's like, no, I'm not gonna sit in this. And then he takes a match and he lights the bus with the match. So like all three things the guy mentioned, he just basically throws out the window like right when he comes into the room. Yeah. But it's like those little like mind games and stuff like that politicians care about way more than we think. You know, like this is how leaders actually think and stuff. Yeah. And it's like a little comment on that, which I love.
Yeah, this is a little off topic, but I just realized I saw 2 movies last week that both had mockeries of Mussolini in them.
What's the other one?
On record.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you got.
I just thought it was funny. Like, damn, they both mock Mussolini in both.
I mean, before the podcast, we were talking about how Mussolini liked Chaplin a lot.
Yeah.
But also, he's from Italy. So.
Yeah. It doesn't matter at the moment.
But what else? Like, before we get to the ending scene, is there anything else you guys want to mention?
I mean, it kind of has to do with the ending scene, but like all the criticisms I had, like sort of criticism I had about the Jewish scenes not really matching up with the Admiral Hinkle scenes, I still do think the last scene with the Jewish barber becoming Admiral Hinkle is on the level of those Admiral Hinkle scenes. Like, I still love that scene just as much.
The last scene.
Yeah, at the end, the whole ending, really, when he impersonates him, basically, is what I'm saying.
Because the way Hinkle gets arrested, where he like takes off his uniform and he's swimming, and then he gets up, they think he's or no, he actually capsizes in his boat.
Yeah. Well, he's hunting, so
yeah, he's hunting. Okay, yeah.
He's hunting, shoots at something, and falls off his boat because he's an idiot.
Okay.
So.
Because then he gets out of the water and they arrest him thinking he's the barber.
Yeah.
And then that's how he gets to be able to fake being Hinkle. But before that, I guess we should just really get to the last scene because that's.
I will say that. Before saying that, the reason I think I might like the Jewish portion just as much, if not a little bit more than the Hinkle stuff, is like I do think the accents are a little distracting for me. Whenever everything else in the movie, especially, is like, I don't know, like they're going like for over the top, obviously, but it's a little too over the top in my opinion for me. Like, I don't know, like because whenever whenever Napoleoni's talking, I'm just like, oh my god. Like, this guy is just, like, the biggest idiot. Like, well, I mean, like, and that's what he's going for, obviously. Like, they're trying to make these guys sound like idiots, but it's just also at the same time just, like, bad imitations of, like, what Germans and Italians sound like. And so it's just like, I don't know. Like,
what he's trying to do, right, through the leaders, but at the same time, I get your criticism.
Yeah,
like,
it's just, like, it takes me out. And I also, like, one of the more, like, I don't know if this part's talking, like, him, like, preaching at you, but it's whenever Hinkle is saying, like, we are here to like promote the Aryan race. Only blue-eyed, blonde-haired men, like strong men and stuff like that, or like who the Aryan race is, and like no one in the room has blue eyes or blonde hair except for the women. Yeah, that he's like ordering around, treating like objects. So
I wanted to mention that before I guess we get to the ending because you reminded me was he kind of comments on to a certain degree how dumb that whole idea was in terms of because. Remember, he mentions, I hate brunettes even more than Jews.
Yes,
you know?
and he's like, well, then we can kill the brunettes.
We'll kill the brunettes too. And he's like, no, we'll do the Jews first, then the brunettes.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, to a certain degree, that's how dumb their ideology was in terms of, like, the same reason they, like, hated Jews was the same reason they would hate brunettes, you know, in terms of they had an idea of what the master race was, and it didn't include Jews or brunettes, you know. Like.
And what is Hitler?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But just... It's just kind of a little joke on her, like it really was to them, like that kind of dumbness. Yeah. You know.
Did they have brown hair?
Yeah. He had black or brown. It was one of those.
I thought it was black. That's what I was confused.
I mean, I think Charlie Chaplin has brown.
Anyway,
he might have black hair too. Actually, I'm not sure.
It's
always a black and white, so I'm not sure if he has black or brown.
If I had to assume it's black, because I would assume the mustache is black.
Yeah.
Because you always see the black mustache paint or something.
Yeah. Maybe it's just because the Chaplin picture on Letterboxd makes him look like he has brown hair, but I don't know.
He's looking it up. But okay, while he looks that up, I wanted to mention Chaplin actually had a quote of Hitler, like before this movie came out, where he said Chaplin remembered that his first impression of Hitler was that he was quote a bad imitation of me unquote.
Bad imitation.
And the mustache probably was because
no.
Chaplin was popular even before Hitler was.
No, I'm pretty sure I've seen that basically Hitler adopted the mustache because. Of Chaplin's likability, and he wanted to be liked just like how Chaplin is liked by so many people.
Yep, and especially the way like Hitler expressed himself, like through like talking, you know, yelling, like basically he probably was attracted to Chaplin's ability to express himself to large groups just I guess Hitler was more talking, but even through expression.
I mean,
hands,
he
that
was.
kind of stuff,
I mean, they
think
show
about how much
you.
Hitler moves around.
They
and
show
stuff when he
you
talks.
Mussolini and Hitler specifically for the hand gestures,
Yes.
also because they
Yes.
do that a lot in their speeches
probably
to
liked
drive
that
home
Chaplin for
points.
that,
Because that's what in groups of people, whenever you talk like that and enunciate and actually use your arms and pantomime kind of actually when in groups of people, it's been shown that actually does work a lot.
And then, kind of related to that, another quote that I guess this was talked in the. If a lot of the facts I get throughout this podcast, I've mentioned the book before, but it's called The Art of Charlie Chaplin by Kip Harness, and he mentions how one of the reasons why Chaplin got the idea to do this movie was he was watching one of Hitler's speeches, and he said, quote, he saw Hitler as, quote, one of the greatest actors I've ever seen. While doing one of his speeches,
That's a great insult.
Yeah, yeah. But you could, and that's basically why he kind of wanted to do the movie. He saw Hitler as kind of trying to be Chaplin. He's like, no, I'm gonna out hinkle you basically.
But I did look it up. He does have brown hair, by the way.
Oh, he does.
Okay.
You're right.
Wow. So the mustache isn't black like I always assumed.
The mustache might still be black, honestly, but
Okay.
It looks. That's why I assumed it looks so black, in the black.
Hey,
and
in the
white.
movies it's black. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
But I guess that's a good way. We'll just go to the ending because to me, the ending does add a certain it does make the movie it makes it way more forgivable in a lot of ways. Because even
it's another one of those endings that elevates his movie.
Yes.
Yeah. Kind of like how we were talking about one of his other ones. I can't remember which one now, but
I just think it's beautiful that he used his first full talkie movie to basically inspire the world. Basically, it shows his humanism really in a good way.
And to me, because I've been mentioning the whole how this one feels more direct than a lot of his other movies, but to me this is where even in that directness he gets even way more direct, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Where he's at this point he's not the tramp, he's not Hinkle, he's not even the Jewish barber to me. He just becomes Charlie Chaplin at this point.
That's
the actor
twist,
being
yeah.
this is how I'm ending my movie, please,
Yeah.
and he probably wouldn't be able to do that just on TV normally. So he's I'm doing this here, that kind of thing.
yeah.
No, it is great.
It was a beautiful speech.
It's a beautiful speech. It's emotional. You still get the kind of the emotion throughout his face, you always get with Chaplin, because it's in close up. Chaplin doesn't use a lot of close ups usually, so when he does, he's telling something important.
Yeah.
But
and he literally looks at the camera the entire time. He's literally trying. He's doing this talking to you, to the viewer. He wants the viewer to know what he's talking, to get this point.
I kind of
driving it home explicitly.
Yeah. I think it'd be cool to time travel back in the time, and see that, and I wonder what the effect was on people when they saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good. See that's all kind of how I've been mentioning how it would have been greater. It would have been awesome to watch this during the time. If you were one of the people. What this movie was actually made for, kind of really what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Chaplin was not making this movie for us watching 2020.
Made me run through a brick wall, honestly, at the time.
Yeah. But at the same time, the speech also has a lot of his themes that he's already addressed.
Oh yeah.
The whole idea of they're making men into machines.
Yeah.
Modern. Well, that's a lot of what modern times is about. But this whole point of you as a people have the power to overcome it. You don't have to fall prey to it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just so much more direct, and it has a lot to do with the war at the time as well. It's just it's a great ending.
It is a great ending.
Did you guys have any other thoughts on the ending, or?
It's beautiful, man.
I mean, you can watch the speech on YouTube if you haven't seen it.
Speaks for itself.
It's got so many views.
And I guess it's not the real end. It's not the actual.
No,
ending
it's not
of
the actual ending either.
It kind of leads to the actual ending of the movie, where, once again, Kip Harness mentioned this book, which I thought was great, but because her name in the movie is the girl's name in the movie is Hannah, and that was the name of his mother. And his mother had died basically by having a nervous breakdown. Basically she struggled after living in London at the time because she was very poor and everything, and she had a nervous breakdown because of that. But and that's why this speech at the very end, where he's basically encouraging Hannah. He literally says the word Hannah.
He does, yeah.
And he's trying to encourage her, to live on, fight on. In some ways, it's he's kind of just talking to his mom in some ways, which is kind of beautiful. But it's just another little Chaplin moment I love. And then the movie ends with just a close up of her face with the clouds behind her and everything. It is his most hopeful movie, I guess. Even if it's
inspiring, I would say.
It's inspiring, I guess. Yeah, like you said, propagandic in a good way.
Yeah.
It is kind of like that, yeah. But do you guys have any last thoughts on either of these movies before we talk about what we're gonna do next week?
think I'm good, honestly.
I think I'm good too. I think
Alright.
I've said my piece.
All right. So next week we will do, honestly, what made me want to do this series in the first place was the fact that he has these movies in his filmography, right? Because it kind of rounds out his filmography. Like I think I mentioned during Woman of Paris, where that movie feels more connected to these two movies coming up,
Yeah.
just because it's not the whole comedy gag tramp kind of thing. You know,
Yeah.
it's a little
He
different.
took something different. Yeah.
Yeah. A more straightforward, realistic story kind of thing. But then it also does have its funny moments and its commentary and everything as well. So I'm really excited, and especially since knowing Blake, he hasn't seen either one of these. I don't think.
Yeah.
I haven't.
But you have seen all of Chaplin's short, like
A lot of them, yeah,
you've seen
a
most
lot
of
of
his
them, yeah.
shorts and everything like that. So yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this next week because we are kind of going to a different phase of Chaplin's career, starting with these movies. So Monster. Oh yeah, I don't think I mentioned them.
Yeah.
Monsieur Verdoux and Limelight. So we're gonna get a more self-reflective Chaplin and kind of a different and a Chaplin that's, I think he's moved by this point. Like he's in Europe. Monster Verdoux maybe. I'll talk about it next week to make sure. But yeah. So yep, that'll be next week. Until next time, hope to see you floating in the clouds.
Let's go.
Bella giustadore, je notre soccafore, je notre citavore, je la tu la ti la tua. La spinach o la bouchon, sigaretta portabello, siracchi spaghetto, je la tu la ti la tua. Signora Pilasina, voulez-vous la taximite? Le zionta sous la cita. Tula, tula, wa. Ça monte si l'amour. Le son tia socrevore, le zonche comme sœur, j'ai la pozza dilatoire. J'ai notre seule mine, j'ai notre seule cantine. Je laisse trop sa vite, je la tasse à vilatoire. C'est notre seule sonte, ci vosse l'autre volta. Les ochassi catonta. Tra la 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 la.